Commander Vexithara stood on the bridge of the Coalition battlecruiser Harmony's Edge, watching the stars through the main view screen. Her silver scales caught the light from the control panels as she moved between stations. With 4 arms, she could work faster than most species in the galaxy. That was why the Coalition had made her a commander at such a young age. "Sir, we have an emergency signal," called out her communications officer, a blue-skinned Zentari named Kolvan. His voice was calm, but Vexithara could hear the concern underneath. "Put it through," she ordered, turning toward the main screen. The image flickered, then showed a human face. The man had dark hair and serious eyes. Behind him, Vexithara could see smoke and flashing red lights. "This is Captain Dongwu of the transport vessel Soul's Pride. We are under attack by Void Reapers, requesting immediate assistance." Vexithara felt her scales shift color slightly, a sign of surprise among her people. Void Reapers were the worst kind of pirates in this sector. They did not just steal cargo. They enjoyed causing pain and fear before they killed their victims. "Captain Dongwu, this is Commander Vexithara of the Coalition Defense Fleet. We are moving to your position now. Prepare for evacuation procedures." The human captain shook his head. "Negative on evacuation, Commander. We request permission to coordinate joint defense operations." Vexithara's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Another sign of confusion. "Captain, our scans show you have a small transport with minimal weapons. The Reapers will have at least 8 ships, all heavily armed. You cannot fight them." "With respect, Commander, we disagree," Dongwu replied. His voice was steady and calm. Too calm for someone facing certain death. "My crew is ready to fight. We just need someone to coordinate with." Before Vexithara could respond, her tactical officer spoke up. "Commander, sensors show 12 Reaper ships decloaking around the human vessel. They were using stealth technology. 12 ships. That was worse than she had feared. Even her own battlecruiser would have trouble with that many enemies." "Captain Dongwu," she said urgently, 12 ships just appeared. You must evacuate now. My ship will cover your escape pods." The human captain looked at someone off-screen, then back at her. 12? That's unfortunate for them. He paused. "Commander, I'm sending you the files on my crew. You might want to look at them before you decide we cannot fight." The transmission ended. Vexithara stared at the screen, wondering if the human had lost his mind from fear. Then the files came through. "Kolvan, put these crew records on my personal screen," she ordered. As she read, her scales began to change color again, this time to deep purple, which meant concern among her people. Captain Dongwu had been a colonel in the Human Defense Corps before becoming a transport captain. His specialty had been something called psychological warfare operations, tactical. Officer Hyun Soo was a former intelligence analyst who had served in 3 major conflicts. His record showed expertise in enemy behavior prediction and manipulation. Engineer Ji-won was female and looked young, but her file showed she had designed weapons systems for the human military. She had left active service after something called the Geneva Incident, which was marked as classified pilot so young, was also female, and had been a fighter ace. Her record showed 47 confirmed kills and a medal for something called extreme valor in impossible circumstances. Medic Taemin had been a military doctor, but his file also listed training in enhanced interrogation resistance and field psychology operations. "Commander," called her weapons officer, "the Reaper ships are moving into attack formation. The human ship is not running." Vexithara looked up from the files to see the Soul's Pride on her screen. It was a simple transport ship, nothing special about it. But now she was starting to think there might be more to it than she had first believed. "Open a channel to Captain Dongwu," she ordered. The human appeared again on screen. Behind him, his crew was moving calmly to their stations. No panic, no fear, just quiet efficiency. "Captain, I have read your crew files. Why did military veterans choose to work on a transport ship?" Dongwu smiled slightly. "Sometimes the galaxy needs people who know how to fix things instead of break them, Commander. But when someone forces us to break things..." He shrugged. "Well, we remember how." "Sir," called Vexthera's sensor officer, "the Reapers are charging weapons and moving closer to both ships." "Captain Dongwu, what do you propose?" Vexthera asked. "Simple coordination, Commander. Your ship has strong shields and heavy weapons. Mine has other advantages. If we work together, we can handle 12 pirate ships." Vexithara looked at her crew. They were all experienced coalition officers, trained in standard military tactics. They knew how to fight pirates and win. But something about these humans made her curious. "Very well, Captain. We will coordinate our attack. But if things go badly, you will evacuate immediately." "Understood, Commander. Sending you our tactical data now." New information appeared on Vexithara's screens. The humans had been scanning the Reaper ships while they talked. The data was incredibly detailed, showing weak points, crew numbers, and even psychological profiles of the known pirate captains. "How did you gather this information so quickly?" she asked. "We have good sensors," Jiwan's voice came through the communication system. "And we know how pirates think." The Reaper ships were getting closer. Soon they would be in weapons range. "All stations, prepare for battle," Vexithara ordered her crew. Then she spoke to the humans. "Captain Dongwu, are you sure about this?" "Commander?" The human replied, "My people have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to win is for good people to do nothing. We are not going to do nothing." As the first Reaper ship fired its weapons, Vexithara realized she was about to learn something new about humans, something that their files had not fully explained. The battle was about to begin, and she had the strange feeling that the pirates had made a very big mistake. The first shots came from the Reaper flagship. Bright red energy beams crossed the space between the ships and struck the shields of both the Harmony's Edge and the Soul's Pride. "Return fire," Vexithara ordered. Her ship's weapons responded immediately, sending blue plasma bolts toward the nearest Reaper vessel. The Coalition had fought pirates for hundreds of years. They knew the best tactics. Form a defensive line, target their weapons first, then engines, then demand surrender. Clean, efficient, minimal loss of life, but the humans were doing something different. "Captain Dongwu, why are you not firing back?" Vexithara asked through the communication link. "We are preparing, Commander," came the reply. "Jiwan, how long? Until we are ready?" "2 more minutes," the human engineer answered. "I need to reroute power from life support systems." Vexithara's scales shifted to orange, a color that meant alarm. "You cannot remove life support during battle. Your crew will die." "We can survive on emergency air for a while," So Young's voice said calmly. "We have done this before." Before. Vexithara could ask what they meant. 3 Reaper ships broke away from the main group and headed straight for the human transport. "They are going to ram you," she warned. "Move your ship now." "Negative," Captain Dongwu replied. "We want them to come closer." The Reaper ships fired as they approached. The Soul's Pride took several hits, but instead of running or returning fire, it did something that made no sense. The human ship actually slowed down. "What are you doing?" Vexathara demanded. "Letting them board us," Hyun-Soo answered matter-of-factly. "That is suicide." "Commander," Captain Dong-Woo said, his voice still calm, "please trust us. Continue your attack on the main Reaper force. We will handle the boarding parties." Vexathara watched in horror as the 3 Reaper ships attached to the human transport. Hundreds of pirates would be pouring into that small ship, 5 humans against hundreds of Void Reapers. "Sir, should we move to assist the human ship?" asked her weapons officer. "Continue firing on the main force," she ordered, though every instinct told her the humans were about to die horribly. Then something strange happened. The Soul's Pride suddenly blazed with light as its weapons finally came online. But these were not the small defensive guns that transport ships usually carried. These were military-grade plasma cannons, hidden inside what looked like cargo containers. "What the hell?" muttered Kolvan, forgetting proper communication protocol. The human ship began firing, but not at the Reaper ships attached to it. Instead, it targeted the main Reaper force with deadly accuracy. Each shot hit exactly where it would cause maximum damage without destroying the enemy ships completely. "Ji-Won, this is beautiful work," came Tae-min's voice over the communication channel, "but I have surgery to perform." "Surgery?" Vexathara asked, confused. "The pirates who boarded us," Captain Dong-Woo explained. "Tae-min is our medic, but he has other skills too." Through her sensors, Vexathara could detect weapon fire inside the human ship. But it was not going the way she expected. The pirates had superior numbers and better weapons. They should have taken control of the ship within minutes. Instead, the weapon signatures were moving in patterns that made no sense. The pirates seemed to be running from something, not attacking. "Captain Dong-Woo, what is happening on your ship?" "Standard boarding defense," Hyun-Soo replied. "We have home field advantage." 2 of the Reaper ships that had attached to the transport suddenly detached and began moving away quickly. The 3rd ship tried to follow, but something was wrong. "With its engines, did you disable their ships from the inside?" Vexathara asked. "Not exactly." So Young's voice came through clearly. "I am outside, placing some special equipment on their hulls." "Outside? You mean in space?" "Yes, Commander. Just a quick spacewalk. The vacuum is not so bad if you have a good suit." Vexathara stared at her screens. The human pilot was actually floating in the emptiness between ships, in the middle of a battle, calmly working on enemy vessels. "Are all humans insane?" whispered her navigation officer. The tide of battle began to change. The coalition ship had damaged 3 of the main Reaper force ships, and the human transport was systematically picking apart the rest with its hidden weapons. But what disturbed Vexathara most was not the humans' military capability. It was their behavior. They were not angry or afraid or excited like most species in combat. They worked with the same calm efficiency they might use to repair a broken engine or cook a meal. Captain Dong-Woo coordinated the battle like he was directing a construction project. Hyun-Soo called out target priorities like he was reading from a shopping list. Ji-Won managed the weapon systems while having a quiet conversation about power distribution. And through it all, they were winning. "Commander," called her tactical officer, "the Reaper flagship is trying to contact us." "Put it through." The screen showed Gazrak the Bloodthirsty, the Reaper commander. His species looked like insects, with multiple eyes and sharp teeth. He was known for his cruelty and his hatred of all other species. "Coalition ship, you will surrender now or we will destroy you both," he snarled. "I do not think so," Vexathara replied calmly. You are outnumbered. Your human allies are about to be overrun by my boarding parties. Actually, Captain Dongwu's voice cut in, your boarding parties have surrendered. We are sending them back to you now. On the sensor screen, Vexthera watched escape pods launching from the human ship toward the Reaper vessels. The pirates were being returned, alive but apparently unwilling to continue fighting. Gazarak's multiple eyes focused on something off-screen, probably receiving reports from his returned crew members. "What did you do to my warriors?" he demanded. "We treated their wounds and gave them some time to think about their life choices," Taemin's voice answered pleasantly. "Several of them have decided that piracy is not a good career path." Gazarak made a sound like grinding metal. "You lie. Void Reapers do not surrender." "Check with them yourself," Captain Dongwu suggested. "Ask them what they experienced on our ship." The communication link went silent as Gazarak spoke with his returned crew members. When he came back, his voice had changed. There was something new in it that Vexthara had never heard from a Void Reaper before. Uncertainty. "What are you?" Gazarak asked. "We are humans," Captain Dongwu replied simply. "And you made a mistake when you decided to attack innocent people today." The battle continued, but Vexthara could see that the Reapers were becoming confused. 3 of their ships had already pulled back from the fight, and the others were not attacking with their usual savage intensity. "Commander," her communications officer reported, "I am picking up strange transmissions between the Reaper ships. They seem to be arguing with each other." "What kind of arguments?" "Some want to continue fighting. Others want to retreat. And some are asking questions about human military capabilities." Vexthara looked at the human transport ship on her screen. So Young had returned from her spacewalk and was back at her pilot station. The boarding parties had been dealt with. Everything seemed normal except for one thing. The humans were too calm. "Captain Dongwu," she called, "what exactly did your crew do to the pirates who boarded your ship?" "Standard procedures, Commander," came the reply. "We defended ourselves." "But they surrendered. Void Reapers never surrender." "Well," Taemin's voice joined the conversation, "I may have explained some medical facts to them about what happens to different species when they experience certain types of stress." "What kind of medical facts?" "Oh, just basic information about their nervous systems, pain receptors, and how long their species can survive under various conditions. Educational material, really." Vexthara felt her scales turn a deeper shade of purple. Something was wrong here, but she could not figure out what. Then Gazarak made a mistake that changed everything. Instead of retreating or continuing to fight the 2 ships, the Reaper commander ordered his vessels to target the Coalition escape pods that were floating in space. These pods contained wounded crew members from both sides who had been evacuated during the battle. The first pod exploded in a ball of fire. "Gazarak, stop!" Vexthara commanded. "Those pods contain wounded survivors. They are not part of this battle." The Reaper commander laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "All enemies of the Void Reapers die, Coalition Commander. No exceptions." 2 more pods were destroyed. "He is targeting non-combatants," Vexthara said to her crew. "This violates every law of warfare." But when she looked at the communication screen showing the human bridge, she saw something that made her scales turn completely black with fear. The humans were not angry. They were not shouting or making threats or showing any emotion at all. They had gone completely silent. Captain Dongwu spoke into his ship's communication system, his voice so quiet that Vexthara had to increase the volume. To hear him, "G1, implement Protocol 7. Copy that, Captain. Protocol 7 is now active. What is Protocol 7? Vexithara asked. The human captain looked directly at her through the screen. His eyes were still calm, but there was something different about them now. Something cold. Protocol. 7 is what happens when someone targets civilians, Commander. I offered Gazarak a chance to surrender. He chose to kill wounded people instead. I do not understand. You will, Hyunsu said quietly. In about 30 seconds. The souls. Pride suddenly changed. The simple transport ship began unfolding like a flower. Hidden panels opened to reveal equipment that Vexithara had never seen before. Sensor arrays, communication dishes, and weapon systems that did not match any known technology. What is your ship? She asked. Officially, we are a transport vessel, Captain Dongwu replied. Unofficially, we are a research ship. We study how different species think and behave under stress. Research? Military research, Commander. The kind that helps us understand our enemies better than they understand themselves. New information began appearing on Vexithara's screens. Data about every Reaper ship in the area, including detailed information about their crews, their families, their home planets, and their personal histories. How do you have this information? She demanded. We have been scanning and analyzing them since the battle began, Hyunsu explained. Every species has patterns, Commander. Psychological patterns, behavioral patterns, even communication patterns. Humans are very good at finding those patterns. Then something happened that Vexithara would never forget. G1 began broadcasting on all Reaper communication frequencies, but she was not sending threats or demands for surrender. She was sending personal messages. Scar Goth of the vessel Blood Drinker, G1's voice said calmly. Your mother Velnara still lives on the planet Corvex. She has been looking for you for 12 years, ever since you left to become a pirate. She does not know what you have become. There was silence from the Reaper ships. Thrakzon of the vessel Painbringer, G1 continued. Your daughter hatched 3 months ago. Her name is Zil-Ara. She has your eyes. More silence. Gazrak the Bloodthirsty, G1 said, her voice taking on a different tone. You were not always a pirate. You were once Gazrak the teacher, who worked with young children on the colony ship New Hope. That was before the Coalition failed to protect your ship from raiders. Before you watched your students die. Gazarak's voice cracked as he spoke. How do you know these things? Because humans study their enemies, Captain Dongwu answered. We know your real names, your families, your histories, and your fears. We know why you became pirates and what you lost before you chose this path. But why? Gazarak asked. Why do you care about these things? Because, Taemin's voice joined in, we prefer to understand our enemies rather than simply kill them. It is more efficient. So, Young's voice added quietly. And because we want to give you a choice, Gazarak. You can continue to be the bloodthirsty, the killer of innocence, or you can remember who you used to be. Vexithara realized what the humans were doing. They were not just fighting a battle. They were conducting psychological warfare on a level she had never imagined possible, and it was working. I do not. Gazarak's voice was confused, uncertain. The escape pods you destroyed contained 3 Coalition officers, 1 Zentari engineer, and 2 injured pirates from your own crew, Hyunsu said calmly. People who might have lived if you had made a different choice. Stop, Gazarak whispered. We can stop, Captain Dongwu said. All you have to do is withdraw your ships and leave this sector. No one else has to die today. There was a long silence. Then Gazrak spoke again, but this time his voice was different, quieter, more like the teacher he used to be. What happens? If we surrender, you get medical aid, a fair trial, and a chance to contact your families, Captain Dong-Wu replied. What happens if you continue fighting is something you probably do not want to discover. Vexithara looked at her screens, watching the Reaper ships hold their positions. The pirates were not attacking, but they had not surrendered either. They seemed frozen, unable to decide what to do, and the humans waited patiently, like teachers, giving their students time to think about a difficult question. The space around the two fleets had become strangely quiet. The Reaper ships floated in formation, but they were no longer attacking. Their crews were talking among themselves, and Vexithara could hear fragments of their conversations through the communication channels. Some pirates wanted to continue fighting. Others were asking questions about their families. A few were arguing about whether the humans were telling the truth about their personal histories. But Gazrak had not responded to Captain Dong-Wu's offer. Commander, Vexithara's sensor officer, reported, I am detecting unusual activity on the Reaper flagship. They appear to be accessing their own personal files and records. They are checking to see if the humans were telling the truth, Vexithara realized. Captain Dong-Wu, she called. How do you have access to their personal information? Coalition intelligence does not have files that detailed on individual pirates. We gathered it during this battle, Commander, Hyun-Soo replied. Every communication, every sensor reading, every behavioral pattern. We cross-referenced it with public records, family databases, and historical archives. It took about 15 minutes. 15 minutes to gather that much information on dozens of individuals. Human computers are very efficient when properly programmed, Ji-Won said. And humans are very good at understanding patterns in behavior and communication. Before Vexithara could respond, Gazrak's voice came through the communication system again. But now he sounded different, tired, defeated. How? Do I know you will keep your word about medical aid and fair trials? You have my word as a human officer, Captain Dong-Wu replied. But if you prefer proof, we can start now. What do you mean? 3 of your crew members are badly injured from the boarding action on our ship. We can transfer them to our medical bay for treatment while we continue this conversation. There was a pause. Then Gazrak said, Why would you heal our wounded? Because they are wounded, Taemin answered simply. I am a doctor. That is what doctors do. Even enemy wounded? Especially enemy wounded. It proves that we are different from you. Vexithara watched as small medical shuttles launched from both ships. The humans kept their word, taking injured pirates aboard their ship and treating them alongside their own wounded crew members. Status report from Medical Bay. Taemin's voice came through clearly. All patients are stable. The Reaper crew members are responding well to treatment. I have also taken the liberty of contacting their families to let them know their loved ones are alive. You did what? Gazrak demanded. I contacted their families, Taemin repeated calmly. Skargoth's mother was very happy to hear from him. She cried. Thraxon's mate wants to know when he will be coming home to meet his daughter. Stop, Gazrak whispered. I can stop, Taemin said gently. Or I can continue making calls. It is your choice. The Reaper commander did not respond immediately. Vexithara could see on her sensors that activity on the pirate ships was increasing. Crew members were moving around, having heated discussions, and accessing personal communication systems. Commander Vexithara, Captain Dong-Wu called, I recommend that your ship move to a safe distance. What happens next might be disturbing to watch. What do you mean? We are about to show the pirates what happens to people who target civilians, So Young said quietly. It is not pleasant. Are you going to execute them? No, Hyun-soo replied. We are going to do something worse. We are going to make them remember who they used to be. Before Vexithara could ask what that meant, Ji-won began broadcasting again. But this time she was not talking to individual pirates. She was broadcasting to all of them at once. Attention, Void Reaper Fleet. You are listening to the personal communication records of your own crew members. These are conversations with their families from before they became pirates. The communication channels filled with voices, mothers talking to their children, mates sharing news about their daily lives, young pirates talking about their dreams and hopes for the future. All the conversations were old, from years before, when these people had been normal citizens instead of killers. Why are you playing these? Gazrak asked, his voice breaking. Because you need to remember, Captain Dongwoo said firmly. You need to remember that you were not always monsters. You became monsters because terrible things happened to you, but that does not excuse what you have chosen to do to others. The broadcasts continued. Happy voices, sad voices, loving voices. All from the past, when the pirates had been different people. Stop this, one of the other Reaper captains pleaded. Please, just stop. We will stop when you surrender, Ji-won replied, or we can continue for hours. We have many more recordings. This is torture, another pirate complained. No, Taemin said quietly. This is memory. This is you remembering what you lost when you chose to become what you are now. Vexithara realized what the humans were doing. They were not attacking the pirates' bodies or even their minds. They were attacking their self-image. They were forcing the Reapers to confront the difference between who they used to be and who they had become, and it was working better than any weapon. Gazrak, Captain Dongwoo said gently, you were a teacher once. You cared about children. You wanted to help them learn and grow and become better than they were. That was a long time ago, Gazrak replied, his voice barely a whisper. It was. But the person who cared about those children is still inside you. He is the person who feels pain every time you destroy an escape pod full of wounded people. How do you know what I feel? Because humans understand pain, So Young said softly. We have all lost people we cared about. We have all been hurt by others. But we chose to try to be better instead of choosing to hurt others in return. The communication channels had become very quiet. The personal recordings had stopped, and the pirates were no longer arguing among themselves. What do you want from us? Gazrak asked finally. We want you to choose, Captain Dongwoo replied. You can choose to continue being the bloodthirsty, the killer of innocence, or you can choose to try to become someone better. And if we choose to surrender, then you get medical care, fair trials, and a chance to contact your families. Some of you will go to prison. Some of you will be able to go home. But all of you will have a chance to try to become who you used to be. And if we choose to continue, fighting? The human captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Then we will show you why humans are feared across the galaxy, and you will discover that there are things much worse than death. Vexithara felt her scales turn completely black. She did not want to know what the humans meant by that. The silence stretched across space for what felt like hours, though Vexithara's instruments showed it was only 3 minutes. The Reaper ships hung motionless in the darkness, and she could almost feel the internal struggle happening on each. Vessel, Gazrak. Captain Dongwoo's voice broke the silence. You have 1 minute to decide. Choose to surrender, or choose to discover what humans do to people who kill civilians? We need more time, Gazarak replied, his voice shaking. Time is something those people in the escape pods no longer have. Tai Min said quietly. You took their time away when you chose to murder them. Vexathera watched her sensors as the Reaper ships began to move slightly, not into attack formation but in small, confused patterns that suggested their crews were arguing. Commander, her communications officer whispered, I am picking up internal communications from the Reaper ships. Some crews are demanding to surrender. Others want to fight to the death. They are very close to fighting each other. 30 seconds, Captain Dongwu announced. Then something unexpected happened. One of the smaller Reaper ships broke away from the formation and transmitted a message. Human ship? This is Captain Skargoth of the Blood Drinker. I surrender my ship and crew. We want to go home. Understood, Captain Skargoth, Captain Dongwu replied immediately. Please power down your weapons and prepare to receive medical assistance. Skargoth, you coward! Gazarek's voice snarled across the communication channels. Void Reapers do not surrender. I am not a Void Reaper, Skargoth replied firmly. I am Skargoth, son of Velnara, and I want to see my mother again before she dies. 2 more ships broke away from the Reaper formation and surrendered. Time is up, Gazarak, Captain Dongwu said. What is your choice? The remaining Reaper ships suddenly opened fire, not on the human transport or the Coalition battlecruiser, but on the ships that had surrendered. They are killing their own people, Vexathera said in horror. Not for long, So Young replied grimly. What happened next made Vexathera understand why humans were feared across the galaxy. The human transport ship moved faster than should have been possible for a vessel of its size. In seconds, it had positioned itself between the surrendering pirates and Gazarak's remaining ships. G1, implement Protocol 7 Level 2, Captain Dongwu ordered. What is Level 2? Vexathera asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. Level 2 is when we stop trying to save everyone, Hyunsu replied quietly. The humans began broadcasting on all frequencies, but now they were not sharing personal messages or family memories. They were sharing something much worse. Attention, Reaper Fleet, Ji-won's voice said, cold as the vacuum of space. You have chosen to murder your own crew members. This changes the nature of our engagement. New information began appearing on the Reaper ship's communication systems, but this time it was not about their families or their past lives. It was about their crimes, every person they had killed, every ship they had destroyed, every family they had torn apart, and it was being broadcast to every coalition station, every news network, and every planetary government in the sector. What are you doing? Gazarak demanded. We are making sure that everyone in the galaxy knows exactly who you are and what you have done, Tai-Min replied calmly. Every government, every police force, every bounty hunter, and every family member of your victims now has your names, your faces, and your exact locations. You cannot do this. We just did, So Young said simply. You chose to kill people who were trying to surrender. Now you get to live with the consequences. But the humans were not finished. They began broadcasting detailed tactical information about each remaining Reaper ship to every coalition vessel in the sector. Weak points, crew numbers, weapon capabilities, and psychological profiles of each captain. Any coalition ship that encounters these vessels will know exactly how to defeat them, Hyun-Soo explained. Any bounty hunter who wants to collect the reward money will know their weaknesses. Any government that wants justice for their crimes will know where to find them. The Reaper ships were no longer firing. They were trying to run, but their engines were not fast enough to escape the range of human communication equipment. "Please," Gazrak begged, "stop this! We surrender!" "Too late," Captain Dongwu replied firmly. "You had your chance to surrender. Instead, you chose to kill your own people. Now you get to experience what it feels like to be hunted." Vexathera realized that the humans had turned the pirates into prey. Every criminal organization, every government, and every victim's family in the galaxy now knew exactly where to find them and how to defeat them. "This is not justice," Gazrak protested. "This is revenge." "No," Captain Dongwu corrected. "This is consequences. Justice would be quick and fair. Consequences last forever." The remaining Reaper ships scattered in different directions, trying to escape. But Vexathara knew they would never truly escape. The humans had made sure of that. As the battle ended, she found herself staring at the human transport ship. It looked normal again, like a simple cargo vessel, but she would never see it the same way. "Captain Dongwu," she called, "I need to ask you something." "Of course, Commander." "Are all humans like you?" The human captain was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Most humans are better than us, Commander. They chose to become doctors, teachers, engineers, and artists. They chose to fix things instead of breaking them. And why did you choose differently?" "Because someone has to stand between good people and monsters," So Young replied. "Someone has to be willing to become something dark so that others can stay in the light." "Are you saying you are monsters too?" "We are what we need to be," Tae Min said gently. "We are healers when healing is needed. We are teachers when teaching is needed. And we are monsters when monsters are needed." Vexathara thought about this as she prepared her report. How would she explain what she had witnessed? How could she describe humans who fought not with superior weapons or technology, but with understanding? Who defeated their enemies by forcing them to confront their own choices? "Captain Dongwu," she said finally, "thank you for your assistance today." "Thank you for trusting us, Commander," he replied. "It is not easy to fight alongside humans. We know we can be disturbing." "Why do you say that?" "Because we fight like we are afraid of ourselves," Hyun-Soo replied. "Perhaps we should be. Perhaps everyone should be." As the Soul's Pride prepared to leave, Vexathara made a decision. In her report, she would recommend that human combat methods be studied but never adopted by coalition forces. "Why?" asked her weapons officer, who had heard her talking to herself. "Because the galaxy is safer when humans are fixing things instead of breaking them," she said, remembering Captain Dongwu's words. "But when someone forces them to break things—" She looked at her screens one more time, watching the human. "Ship disappear into hyperspace. Well, we saw what happens then.